Well, let me just check the sound here. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of WeLearn. Simon, could you really quickly do the... I think the focus is a bit off. Looks like the focus is a little bit off, but Simon is giving us a hand here. Yeah. In the meantime, I will set up the presentation. As those of you that watched last time will have seen that it works. Just give me 1 second here to sort out the technical matter. Press that button. Oh. And let me switch that off. Alright, that's it. We're ready to go. Yeah, just let me just look. Why doesn't that show up there? Because I haven't pressed play yet. Yes, now that's it. Focus is still a little bit off, I think. I think isn't it the one in the front? That looks better. Thank you, Simon. Alright, so with that little small delay there, we're going to get started. First I want to thank everybody that wrote in after last episode. Thanks for all the encouraging words, and I was glad to know that you enjoyed it. And also for some of the people that sent me a comment about how things could be improved for the next couple of shows. I appreciate that, and I hope I'm going to get a lot more of that, and also that you will keep watching. So today's show is going to be called Camp Buddies, which actually is a way to express all the animals that live in the camp with us, which is quite a large number of animals actually, different species, and that way it's very different from a city life here, which is pretty obvious. But it's not only the big animals, there's lots of small ones as well. So we're going to have a look at those. I really enjoyed actually after I came up with the idea of doing a show on this. Actually doing it last week, because it gave me a good chance to walk around with my camera and my video camera and just have a look at all the little critters and the somewhat bigger critters that move around the camp. And actually I made some quite interesting discoveries. Some animals that I wasn't aware that were here, small ones, some big ones, and I'm going to share those with you. But what it also made clear to me is that I could surely do another episode of Camp Buddies at some point in the future. So that was actually quite interesting for me as well. The show is called WeLearn, and that means not only you learn, but I learn as well. So before we get into that show, at the end of last week's show, let me just take this off because it's reflecting too much. I can still see you though, so don't go away. So last week we had the viewers challenge, and with that viewer challenge I asked you 3 birds and to identify them. Didn't turn out to be too difficult as expected. It was also not the intention to make it very difficult, but still I'm going to give the answers to those questions now, and you can see whether you got it right. But most people that I did get the answers from either in the forum or through email, thank you for that anyway, they did get it right. So let's get started. WeLearn, don't sweat the small stuff, love it, because we do. And on that topic, there's no risk of transpiration today, because actually I was considering wearing long sleeves today, because it's about 20 degrees colder than it was on Monday. So that's, from a presentation perspective at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, that's a really good thing. So yeah, let's move on. The viewer challenge answers. At the end of this show I'm also going to have a viewer challenge based on something from our show, a topic I was actually tempted to discuss but decided not to, but rather ask you about, and then probably in some future episode we will come back to it, because it's something I found out during the research for this program, and I found it quite interesting, so I hope you do too, but we'll come back to that later. So the first one that we asked about last time is, I gave a hint about the rain bird, but that's actually Burchell's cuckoo. And yeah, as I said, most of you got that right. There were just a couple of answers that came in that said it was suggested a Senegal cuckoo, which is actually not that strange, because those birds are very similar. They're similar size and they look very similar. The main distinction though between the Senegal cuckoo and the Burchell's cuckoo is that if you look at this part here at the bottom, at the you can see that it is barred and striped. At least I hope you can see that as well on your picture at home. But with the Senegal cuckoo, this would be just all evenly colored as the tail would be. It doesn't have this barring out here. And the Senegal cuckoo doesn't occur this far south, actually. So just it's mostly Zimbabwe and a very small sliver in the northern part of South Africa, but not this far the south end of the Kruger Park and the Sabi Sands. Egyptian goose, no mistakes there. It's a very nice picture, I think, myself, actually. But yeah, it's quite easy, quite recognizable with the eye patch, and often seen as well at the pen. And then the third one was the crowned lapwing, and also especially those that watched our game drives will have easily recognized that one. So let's close off next week, or last week I mean. So this week we talk about our camp buddies of the non-human kind. I've collected a couple, and also I've tried to add in some videos just to make it a bit more interesting. And also during some of the videos I will just remain silent and let you just watch and listen to the videos. I will give some information. I think that will add some interest and some variety, and also gives me a chance to quickly grab a sip of water. So let's get started. The first one, one of the ones that I announced, is arrow-marked babbler, and I found it a quite interesting bird, in the sense that, especially because the name is very descriptive of the bird. You will see that when I put the picture on. But also it makes an interesting sound. It's almost like a metallic clicking sound. So that's a bird that we often see around camp in small groups, 5-10 birds, foraging and picking through the leaf litter in search for small insects. But before I say more about that bird, let's just have a look and a listen to it. If that works as it should. I think there it comes. I hope you could hear that sound in the beginning. It wasn't very loud, but it's a large metallical clacking, and this was one bird making that sound. Often the whole flock of birds starts doing that the same way, and that can actually be quite noisy. The second part, if you look at the name, just look at the front of that bird and the top of the crest. It really looks like it has little arrow-marked little feathers. That's where the name comes from. That's the arrow-marked, and the babbler part is obviously derived from the sound that the bird makes. Just look how beautiful that crest is. And how alert the bird is. It's not disturbed by anything, it's just making sure there's no danger anywhere. Here you can see it going through the leaf litter, looking for little insects and fallen seeds and whatever it can find to eat there. This type of feeding behavior is very typical for the group of birds that's called thrushes, which are closely related to the babblers actually. That's the end of the video. And that's something you can also, I'll just go back quickly. If you look at the scientific name, it says Turdoides. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Somebody asked me about that and asked me to pronounce all the scientific names because they thought they might have some trouble with that. Well, that goes for me as well. It would be easy for me to pronounce it in the Dutch way, because that's how I grew up. Having Latin and Greek names, but then have to pronounce them with an English inflection, that's going to be as tricky for me as it is for you. So if I can say something, I'll try to pronounce it, but I think I'm going to stay away from reading out all the scientific names in full. But Turdoides actually means like a Turdus, which Turdus is the scientific name for thrush. So even in the name you can already see it's closely related to that one. So yeah, let's just quickly pass by that. That was the site again.